so I come back to the boat and find that my multimeters, I'm almost positive someone used it while I was gone, found it dug out of the toolkit and laying on the berth. And here they broke the screen and it's dead. Put new batteries in it. It's filled with water, like somebody left it outside. So I have this other one. It's not as good, but it's what I have now. And I'm testing these batteries, and they are this bank, and this bank are totally flat and have been for a while, I would imagine. This one here is showing 3.2 volts cumulative for all 8 cells that are in there instead of the 28.8 that it should have if it was full. And it wasn't full, it was at 70% when we left. We did that last year and had no problems with it. We came back and it was still at 70%, even after the guys came in and turned the domestic power on in order to pump the bilge and to have lights and fans and whatnot. They didn't use very much power at all. This year, to have it go completely dead like this, I feel like someone probably left the power on and went home. And they didn't realize it until a week later and came back on the boat and said, oh my gosh, look what happened. That's how I feel about it right now, because although it's sometimes possible to bring these cells back to life after they go flat like this, it really only works if you do it in the first week or so, or the first couple of days. I think it's been this way for months. And I'm going to have to replace all these cells, and that sucks because they're like 1/16 into their life. And it's such a pain to pull all this apart. I mean, it truly is. All the wiring, everything. It's just such a mess. I'm demoralized by this right now. And of course, I'm sweating to death, as I usually am. Whenever I'm on the boat. And it's not even that hot out right now. That's the funny thing. But anyway, we'll, what's that?
It says just humid, honey.
Okay, well, I got out my number 3 kind of piece of crap multimeter, and it actually showed that the batteries were not dead, that they had very low voltage at 20 volts or so, but which was below the cutoff for the BMS. So what we did was I plugged it in to our solar panels, because they only put out about 11 amps or so. So I wanted to kind of gently charge these back up, and so we left it on solar all day long, and we're finally up to 24.7 volts. We're going to leave it on. We're going to leave the solar running until it gets dark tonight, and turn that off. And then tomorrow, I'll use the big charger, our Master Volt Charge Master 24 /110-24 puts out 110 amps, and that thing is a beast, and that will charge the rest of the way up, I think. We'll have to see how that goes, but all 3 batteries are up and running at 24.7 volts, and looking at it on the Victron Connect app right now, so I can see that we're taking in 4.5 amps of solar, and the voltage is at 24.94, so it's gone up a little bit since I started making this clip. I'm also looking at our Smart BMS app, which shows all 3 packs of batteries on the app from Dali, and I can see packs 1, 2, and 3 there, and I can see that they're all showing 24.7 volts. Is what it's showing on the Dali app, and I think that there's probably that the Victron is feeding 24.9 something in there, and it's, you know, it doesn't take immediately into the batteries. It takes time for that to happen. And I'm not showing any current coming in at all, but I know that it's actually happening because the voltage is rising on each of these packs. So I think I'm in pretty good shape now. I was very demoralized this morning, but I think this is probably going to work. I think these batteries are probably not dead, and you know, they might have been damaged some, but for what I need them to do, I think will be okay. So what you working on, Wen?
Well, I'm trying to clean this winch, but it doesn't want to be cleaned. It has parts that won't disassemble, and it's very gloppy, and I am feeling very unqualified. Perhaps you should do it for me.
Looks like a project you took on.
Oh, come on. You want to do it for me, don't you?
Wendy is the winch rebuilding pro. We can't get that one gear out, and it's been so long. Yeah, we're gonna have to look at it and see what's going on. It's kind of glued together with very thick grease. You know, we got the battery charger running, and I mean, nothing really important to see here, but it is taking 115. It is taking 115 amps into it right now, and that's one of the misunderstood aspects of lithium-ion batteries, LiFePO4 battery banks, is that, you know, if you're charging 480 amp hours of batteries, that's, if at 1C you can take up to 480 amps if you want to feed that to the battery bank. If you're looking to charge a battery bank relatively quickly, it's hard to get the type of amps that you need, and people are buying, you know, DC to DC chargers that are limited to 30 or 50 amps, and you know, attaching them to a high output alternator that'll put out 100 or 200 amps, and you know, you really have trouble getting these things charged in any kind of reasonable amount of time. It typically takes us, even with a battery charger that puts out 110 amps, and we've got some solar going into that as well, it takes 4 to 5 hours to charge the batteries. It takes about 3 hours to charge them after a night of using the air conditioning just in our aft cabin where we sleep. But then the next following day we have to run the generator for 3 hours in order to get that back up again. So anyway, we're doing okay, I think. It looks to me like the batteries are taking the charge. I'm glad we kind of took it easy yesterday and just let the solar get a nominal amount of power in there so that we didn't swell the batteries up or overheat them or anything like that. And then once we got up to 24.5 volts or so, and we were kind of above the rated voltage of the batteries, then it was time to go at it with a more heavy-duty charger. A lot of people don't fully understand how batteries work as far as the voltages go. Nominal voltage for a 12-volt battery is 12 volts, but the actual battery charge is going to be 14.4 volts. By the time it gets down to 12 volts, that's basically the low limit of you know, your stereo needs a full 12 volts. Most of the things in a car require the 12 volt. By the time you get down to 12 volts, you've pretty much depleted the battery. And if you go below that, things kind of stop working. And same thing happens obviously with a 24 volt system. It runs at 28.8, somewhere between 28.4 and 28.8 volts. But we charge to 28.8, and it just ends up being that once you're down below 24 volts, things aren't really going to work the way they should. A lot of accessories like stereos and things that run off of 24 volt power, the chart plotters, all the stuff at the nav station, that may or may not work below 24 volts. So when you get down to 24 volts, that's I think the low limit cutoff for the batteries is something like 20 volts. So, and I believe that the BMSs did their job. I think they cut the power when it got down below a certain point, and that saved the batteries. So I'm happy there. I think that was a, I don't know, I wouldn't want to do that experiment, blithely, but now that it's happened and kind of looks like it was a success, I think the next big test is going to be whether they hold power for the period of time that we're used to. That's one of the things that happens when batteries fail, is that they don't have the capacity, the rated capacity anymore. If you kill a car battery more than a few times, it's not going to hold a charge anymore. And you can charge it all day long, and then it'll just you unplug the leads, and it just it goes back to zero. And then you can't start the car. You can't even jump the car because it just isn't accepting power. That's called the crown assembly that Wendy's working on. It's with a stripper ring in the center. It's basically the self-tailing functionality comes from that. You tighten down those screws. There's a spring underneath that allows the crown to pull apart enough to grip the line. And then the tailing arm pulls the line out of the crown so that it doesn't just keep wrapping. As a side note, we during the off season we had the bottom of the boat stripped down to the gel coat, and that was probably, there's probably 10 coats of paint on there just from us, with no idea how many coats were on there before we bought the boat. But taking it down to the gel coat must have removed hundreds of pounds of paint. We then had them apply 2 coats of barrier primer, Sea Hawk Tuff-Stuff, as a barrier coat, and then on top of that they sprayed our new Islands 77 Plus product from Sea Hawk on top of all of that, and it was a fantastic job. It looked wonderful when done, but must have taken a ton of work to get the old paint off. Okay, so if you look down there, it's probably pretty hard to see, but there's a nut on the end of that bent lever for the strainer, and I need to get it off. And I just don't have good. I got these 2 off, the front and the rear. They were not easy, but actually they were fairly easy in comparison. This one is just a bear to get to. Actually, getting the front and back ones off was fairly doable. It just needed a wrench. Most of these, a combination wrench is the best way to get these nuts off, because you really want to get a grip on all 6 points of the nut. I would say this nut has been attempted to be removed before, and somebody really rounded it off with a pair of channel locks or a pair of vice grips, something like that. And of course these hoses are all in the way and I can't remove them. I was going to try to unspin the entire strainer off the seacock, but it's on there. It does not want to move. All this stuff is just corroded into place over decades of just being in one spot. I did take this fitting out, which would allow it to spin. That's what pink bronze looks like, and it's not good. The only issue, the only thing is, for me, is I don't know if I'm going to be able to find one of these here. This is a British pipe thread. It's not, I know this because I've sourced these strainers, or at least tried to, and they may only have NPT. This would be a male NPT thread normally. So I'm going to take this over to the Budget Marine and see if there's anything there that looks like it. Okay, well, I've used just about every tool I have on this project. I think that this nut here, by the way, is somebody screwed it on, cross-threaded it on. It's totally not like the others, and they appear to be the same size. I went to the Budget Marine and all they had was one of these, which they don't even stock. It's an imperial sized fine thread, 5/16 I think she told me, nut, and I ground the other one off. And the trick with this is to not take off the threads while you're doing it. You can see where there's kind of like a little toothy area where it broke. So it was very close on this side. If you take the threads off, and especially if you round out the flat that's on there, it will not work later on. So you have to be very, very careful if you're going to grind a nut off of a through haul. I've had to do it about 5 times in my life. This particular job took a total of probably about 6 hours of hard labor, and my knuckles are all scraped and bloody from it. It's the type of job that if you had a marine technician charging $65 or $90 an hour or something, you would just get the bill and absolutely flip out. But that's, some of this stuff is just that hard to get to. I didn't waste time on this. It's just, it took forever. I had to try 5 different ways, and if I didn't have this little Dremel stylus, I would be forced to be filing it off with a mill bastard file. The edge here has grooves in it as well, and now it's going to be like escaping from prison. I'm going to be working on that for a week, filing off a little at a time. The nuts are super hard steel. Anyway, so there we are. Now it's just a matter of finding the levers. Of course, they're out of the only lever that we need at Budget Marine, and they tell me that they don't have any more anywhere, which I don't believe. I think that the other stores have it. They just didn't feel like looking it up on the computer. However, we have them. Of course, they're lost because we don't have an inventory system on this boat, which we should have done when we bought it and then, maintained it. But that's our lives, right, honey?
I'm the inventory system, so I'm at fault.
Well,
I don't know where they are.
So here's the jobs always expand whenever you're working on a boat, and kind of hard to see down in there, but those hose clamps are just gone, and this is, I think, the result of having the salt water come out of these strainers and get on those clamps. They need to be replaced pretty much everywhere where we have clamps. On here, they're just an absolute mess. I've replaced all 3 of the levers on here, but as usual, finding the right nut, I go into the Budget Marine and they don't carry it. They carry the bolt that goes with it, but not the nut. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? And she's like, because nobody needs them. And I'm like, no, everybody needs them. They're just coming in and not finding it. It's like it's like a 5/16 or a 15-30 seconds nut, something really, really ridiculous. But anyway, I've already taken these 2 hose clamps off because they were in the same boat as the ones I just showed you. So everything's getting replaced. That's the plan. Well, so we got our new levers on. 3 different threads between the 3 of these 3 strainers. I got new hose clamps on everywhere that needs them, and yeah, I think we're ready to rock and roll here with this. The only thing I'm going to do right now is open the seacock for the engine. I want to make sure we don't end up forgetting to have that open when we need to maneuver and suddenly the engine's overheating. So we'll turn that on. There we go. And then I'll leave the other ones off for the moment. I'm going to have to come back in. Once we're in the water, I've got to come look at this and double check that nothing's leaking.